Hello friends, I'm John Laspina, carnivore teacher. Did you know that you can become resistant to anything that you get too much of? Your body, if it sees too much of something, like sugar, you can become insulin resistant. And many people do. Many people are. If you take too much melatonin, like exogenous melatonin pills every night, like large amounts, your body will start to become resistant to it. And your body may also not make its own melatonin because it sees that some external form is coming in. Anything at all that you give your body too much of constantly, persistently, the body has a way of saying, I've had enough, I don't like this, it's starting to become toxic, and it resists that substance. So today, of course, I'm talking about insulin resistance mostly. When we consume large amounts of carbohydrates over a long period of time, carbs turn into sugar very rapidly. There is an enzyme in our saliva called amylase, and the amylase enzyme breaks down starch. Starch is a long string of glucose molecules, and those little connectors that connect the glucose together to make the starch, the amylase breaks that down, and you have pure glucose, which the pancreas sees as sugar. And the pancreas says, okay, here comes energy in the form of glucose. We have to produce insulin because it's coming into the body, and we have to get that into the cell. And there's too much. So now it goes back to the liver, and the liver stores it as glycogen, and there's too much, and the liver stores it as fat. And that's how we become obese. Potatoes, starch, turns into sugar. Rice, starch, turns into sugar. Bread, wheat, grains of all kinds, and legumes, which are beans, starch, turns into sugar. That wonderful enzyme that we have in our mouth and in our stomach converts starch into sugar very rapidly. This is why we say to get rid of carbs and sugar in your life. Remember, our liver makes just the amount of glucose that parts of our body need. It's about a level teaspoon of glucose, about 4.4 grams. And that's to keep our red blood cells going, because our red blood cells do not have mitochondria. They need glucose. And there are a few other parts of the body that need glucose. We never have to put it in our body. And if you are eating sugar, candy, cake, stuff with all the sugar, of course, that's pure sugar. That's pure glucose and fructose. And the glucose part goes immediately into the body, and the body sees it that way. And the fructose part goes right to the liver to get converted into fat around the liver. And, we're giving ourselves so many carbs and so much sugar over a long period of time on the standard world diet that our bodies say, stop already. Would you please stop? It's too much. Our body is only supposed to have 4 to 4.4 grams of glucose flowing through our veins at any given time, and we are just pouring the glucose in our body with the standard world diet. Think about it. Think about what's in the standard world diet. It's just a lot of carbohydrates and sugars. So once your body starts rejecting this sugar, that's called insulin resistance. That's where the cell has little receptors on the outside of it. They're called insulin receptors. They are seeing all this insulin come because of all that sugar, and they're resistant. They don't want to open the cell, and they're sick and tired of opening up. It's too much sugar. So you need more insulin banging on the door so that the cell opens up to let the energy in. That's why type 2 diabetics give themselves more insulin, because they got to get those cells opened, right? The solution is not more insulin. The solution is less sugar, fewer carbohydrates. This is why we say on a ketovore or a carnivore way of eating, you take your total carbohydrate count down to below 20 total grams a day. Do you know you're eating close to 150, 175 total grams on the standard world diet? You are. Take it down all the way to below 20 total. If you want to go carnivore like me, eventually you take it down to 0. Remember, that's the health. That's our natural state as human beings on the planet Earth. We're not meant to eat all this ultra-processed food and fast food with lots of carbohydrates and sugars. We are meant to eat animal products. So I eat, and I encourage you to eat, beef, lamb, pork, chicken, turkey, duck, fish. The smaller the fish, the healthier, has less mercury, and hen eggs, quail eggs, duck eggs that are pasture raised, fish that is wild caught. This has 0 sugar, or they only have like maybe 1 carb or 1.5 carbs per entire meal. Like an egg has a carb. I don't know if you know that. It has carbohydrates. Fish, shellfish have some carbohydrates, but we're talking the most minuscule. So your body sees that and it's a joke. Your insulin receptors, your insulin, they're like, okay, let it in. They're not resistant to that 1 or 1.5 carb per meal because your body is expecting it, knows it. And you know, your insulin is also there to let the protein in. Insulin does not respond to fat. It responds to carbohydrates and protein. Those are the 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates, fat, and protein. So give yourself healthy protein and lots of fat in a 1-to-1 ratio if you can, and you will be nourished, and you won't have your body saying, I don't want that, it's too much. Remember, too many carbs and too much sugar causes insulin resistance, which causes obesity, which causes inflammation, which causes a whole plethora of health problems, leading all the way up to amputations and death. I end my video today just asking you to think about your diet. What are you eating? Instead of counting calories, count your carbs, count your sugars, and make sure there's no seed oils in any food that you eat at all. Ladies and gentlemen, eat well, stay insulin sensitive, and have a good day.